connection isn't just a feel-good fluff and stuff kind of thing in the workplace. It's the foundation of innovation, retention, and long-term success. And the leaders who focus on building relationships create teams that not only perform better, but stay longer and grow stronger. Hey leaders, welcome into the Sandbox. I'm Tammy Bond, host of the Leadership Sandbox podcast, and excited to have you join me today. We're going to be diving into episode 68 around how you can stop chasing productivity and start building connection with your team. And I'm going to dive into why that matters as we get into the episode. Well, one thing I want to challenge you with is to take a real good look at where do you have your team focusing their efforts and their time? Are you truly focusing them and your efforts and their efforts all around their productivity and the metrics to that productivity? And if is that the only thing that you're focusing on and is the outcomes of that productivity? See, where we get into struggle and some trouble is that we lose sight as leaders who are hyper focused on productivity. We lose sight of the importance of building connection and why that matters. We have a relentless focus on productivity that often backfires. And in the Sandbox today, we're going to be getting into some of the research, and we're going to be getting into the ways that you can shift some of that energy and perspective and drive on productivity to a different thing called connection and watch your productivity skyrocket. So I want you to get out your pen and paper if you can. If you're listening to this while driving, come back to it, go to the show notes because these are here. These tips, these keys, and these tools that you're going to want to implement. But for you taking notes, write down number 1, number 2, and number 3, because you're going to walk away from today's episode with 3 tangible tactics, tools that you can implement, even questions that you can ask of your team to find out where we are on this productivity versus connection in the team and in the workplace. Connection trumps productivity every time. And let's kick off our shoes and step into the sandbox and find out more. I'll see you inside in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hey, leader, if you're navigating tough conversations and it feels like a struggle, I want you to know I've got you covered. I've got you back. I've created a communication starter pack designed to give leaders and managers the tools that they need to communicate with confidence, clarity, and real impact. So I want you to head on over to bondgroupenterprises.com and grab your starter pack today. It's time to lead conversations that matter and get the results you deserve. All right, we're back. Here we are. Productivity. How about we transform productivity into building connection? Why would that even matter, Tam? You're thinking productivity. We're all about the numbers. We're all about the metrics. We're all about the bottom line. I get it. Yes. And a relentless focus on productivity often backfires. And research shows from Gallup that 70% of employees feel disengaged at work. 70%, y'all, disengaged at work. And disengaged employees, this is the stunning part, are costing companies an estimated 450 to 550 billion with a billion. Productivity, folks, without connection leads to burnout. And we know that it leads to lower retention, higher turnover. We know that it leads to stifled innovation. So then why is it that we aren't flipping the script to focus more on connection than we are with productivity? Because if the opposite of that burnout and retention and stifled innovation is true, we have higher retention when we're connected. We have higher innovation when we're connected. We're increasing the way that people see themselves able to succeed in the workplace. Now, listen, leaders, it's time to flip the script on this, because when we flip the script and we see that connection isn't just a nice to have, that it's a productivity multiplier, it's a game changer for us. So tell me more, Tam, is the question to ask. What's that mean? Well, it means that you might be caught in the busy versus effective trap. And that's something I would challenge you to take a look at today, because leaders and teams can often confuse being effective or being busy with being effective. And the constant chase for productivity and metrics like deadlines and hours worked and all of that ignores the human element that drives sustainable performance. And connection is that factor. The reality check for you, friend: teams that feel connected are 87% less likely. Let me say that again. Teams that feel connected are 87% less likely to leave their organization. I was just talking with a team the other day, and this leader was talking about the rate of turnover that they're having and the challenge with that. But never once did they go to asking the questions around how people feel connected or what the cause or the drivers are beyond leaving, because they're making assumptions depending on the generation that's leaving the workplace. They're making the assumption as to, oh, they just want higher rate of pay and we can't give it in the position. That they're making assumptions that they just want more challenging position, or they think that they're worth more, or that they have more tools or more skill set. That's the word I want to say. More skill set than they actually have to perform the duties before them. So they're going to find something else. No, no, no. Let's go back to the connection aspect of it, right? If your team isn't connected, our organizations are showing that when they are connected, they're 87% less likely to leave. And they show that 21% higher profitability just from that simple connection. And you have the amazing ability to pause and just ask yourself, am I rewarding busyness or impact? Right? Am I rewarding the the look of everybody's busy and everybody's at their desk, everybody's doing what I need them to do because they look busy, versus the impact that the individual contribution is making? And I want you to think about this, shifting your focus to recognize outcomes driven by collaboration and engagement. Because what do collaboration and engagement have in common? They create connection. And that connection we can see from the results of Gallup. Thank you, Gallup. We see that increases our productivity. It increases stability in the workforce, and it increases the want and drive for people to stay working with you in your workplace. So now, how does productivity obsession kill that retention? Well, productivity that productivity only cultures, it says, prioritizes outputs over relationships, leading to burnout. Okay. That's what the studies are showing. So employees feel like they're just simply cogs in a wheel. They're cogs in a machine. They're not valued contributors. And it's up to us to decide how we are going to make them feel, help them feel, can't make anybody, how I can help and support them to feel valued. Because turnover, high pressure environments create turnover, right? It results in top talent leaving for more balanced opportunities. And depending on the generation that they are from, that balance in opportunity and that feeling aspect, right? That feeling that I'm making a difference is so important to the younger generations. And as I'm talking about in a future episode, we've got 5 different generations in the workplace today, and all of them are motivated and driven by different things. And us as leaders don't necessarily know how to tackle those different things or how to promote the opportunities within those different wants, desires, needs that each generation has. But you get to find ways in your environment. If keeping top talent is important to you, how do you balance opportunity with the productivity that you're looking for? It's really important. Here's one of the other items that is also key that we know that happens when we have too high focus on that productivity versus the connectedness. There's an erosion of trust that happens. When connection takes a back seat, employees don't feel seen, heard, and acknowledged or celebrated. Mostly seen and heard. The acknowledgement will come when they feel seen and heard. But what we often are missing is that need to look at, that drive, that want to take a look at how are we connecting and making our employees, helping support our employees to feel connected and seen and heard. See, here's a statistic that I want to help drive this home with you. Deloitte, Gotta love a good statistic. I've got Gallup in here today and Deloitte in here today. I mean, these are like, hello, somebody. I'm doing some research for you, friends. According to Deloitte, 61% of employees who feel disconnected from their workplace plan to leave within the next 12 months. Okay. 61%. Can you afford, friend, to lose 61% of your team to turnover? Think about the cost of then I need to hire, I need to retrain, we got to onboard, right? All of that. And then the ripple effect again to the team. And I talk about the ripple effect in the sandbox a lot. We can drop the pebble in the water and the pebble is gone and out of sight, but that ripple that goes and goes and goes has a longer impact than the one pebble did. So if we can get to what's the pebble causing, right? What's that pebble that's driving the workplace abandonment, people to leave in the next 12 months because they feel disconnected, when we can conduct an audit for that, right? That's your call to action today, is conduct an audit and a survey. Make it anonymous. I don't care if you make it not anonymous, though people won't as fully participate, because remember, we have a breach in trust, and it's like the dam wall, and you've got the water that's seeping through, and trust is knocking at that wall of water, just waiting for that next big rock to give, and 61% of your employees are going to go. So you do want to conduct some sort of a survey to ask, what makes you feel most valued at work? Ask that simple question. I want to hear, what makes you feel most valued at work? What makes you feel that you are a top contributor at work? Or what makes you feel like you aren't able to contribute at work? How do you feel on a scale of 1 to 5 with your ability to voice your concerns? How connected do you feel? Right? On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 low, 5 high, tell me about the connection rate that you would give our team. Are we connected? What does connection look like to you? What does it mean to you? Asking some simple questions like that, and then using those responses and actually doing something and saying, thank you for responding to our survey. Here's how we're going to use your responses. It might shape initiatives that you have to prioritize the connection opportunity versus just pushing outputs from people. And going into this new year, being in the start of this new year, we can go back to whatever survey results happened last year, take a look at those, identify what are the transformation and changes you might want to make, have conversations and see if that's still relevant for people, make connection important in your team meetings. Remember, I'm an advocate for effective team meetings and giving people the opportunity to give their input, right? That input that they're giving is going to help you also to know and build connection and build trust and build community within your team as you're making your way to higher productivity. When we push only the productivity and we push only the outputs that we're wanting from people, what we end up getting is that disgruntled, or that what I would even call even a complacent Charlie syndrome shows up, where why bother? I'm just going to duck and cover until my next opportunity comes along. That's disengaged. That's your 61% that's leaving the workforce. And if you can afford that, cool, keep doing what you're doing, friend. I'm just going to lay that there. You keep doing you. But if it's not working for you, what are we going to do different about it? Because the ripple effect of connection is so clear. When leaders build, when they invest in building connection, innovation thrives. We know that connected teams are more likely to collaborate and share bold ideas with each other. And they're willing to bring those bold ideas forward to cancel out the old and bring in the new. We know that engagement soars. We know that employees that feel emotionally invested in a company's success are more likely to stay, which then transforms our retention rate, right? Retention strengthens employees' want and desire to stay. And we create that environment where they feel like they belong and they want to be a part of that. So here's something I want to just sort of put out there, because I can't not be but edgy with you for a moment here, friends. What's the status on this for you with this question? How can I support my team today to feel more engaged and connected with one another? What does that look like for me? Take a moment. Replacing with the question mark of the replacing with the push of the urgency for productivity, replace that with something different where you're asking yourself, what's the status on this situation that I have with, disengagement in the workplace? What's the ripple effect? And what is it that I can do to transform that today? And then you're going to start asking the question to your team members of how can I support you with feeling more connected and engaged in work? What does that look like? And honestly, I'd probably even take the word engagement out. This little side note here, because we can overuse that word, but connection is a really strong word for this new year. How do I create more connection within the team so that we're building trust, so that we're sharing bold ideas, so that people are feeling more a part of what we're creating together, solution focused versus just productivity, right? Those small little shifts signal something huge for your team. It shows that you prioritize the person, the individual over the task, right? That you're driving trust and better performance because of the questions that you're asking, because of the engagement that you're creating. So if you look at it this way, connection can be your new competitive edge. Think about that for a minute. If connection can be my new competitive edge, what can our organization or our team look like as a result? Because organizations that value connection outperform those that don't. I mean, and it's shown, right? We can look at different projects that other large organizations have created. One example is Google's Project Aristotle. And they found that the most effective teams from that project prioritize psychological safety and interpersonal relationships over sheer technical ability. And I know that we're often hiring for the technical. And I've said it before on the show. I want you to start behavior-based questioning and hiring for the behaviors that you want to see repeated in the workplace versus there's just the technical. Because I can train technical, but I can't change and train as easily a behavior pattern that someone is well entrenched in. And that's really a root cause of this. So if you want to create relationships and connection in your workplace so that you're increasing that performance and you're increasing the outputs. So here's a lesson for you today. Connection is not a distraction. It's a driver of high-performing teams. So when you start your team meetings with connection, a minute to ask a quick question. I love to start with celebrations. That's a wonderful way to create connection as well. Ask a quick question like, what's one thing you're proud of this week? Or what's one thing you're struggling with this week? Just to set the tone. Or what's something that you're celebrating this week? What's something that if we could remove a roadblock for you would be completely different for you this week, personal or professional? I'm really okay because that openness creates that collaboration. And it's so important for us. So as we round out this conversation around connection versus just hammering in the productivity, I want you to think about this. When leaders prioritize connection, productivity becomes a natural byproduct. And people don't work harder because they're told to. They work harder because they feel valued. So who are you not to empower and value your employees with connection in the workplace today to transform the productivity in the future? You've got this. I know that you do. So after listening to today's episode, y'all, in the Sandbox, I want you to commit to one connection building action. I want you to commit to it this week. Write it down, make it plain. Go to the show notes. You're going to see the action steps that you can take to create connections. And then I want you to share it. I want you to share it with me. Use the hashtag Leadership Sandbox. Share it on your socials so that I can come in and see what you've done and what you're sharing, so I can celebrate with you the bold commitment that you're making to create connection. And make sure you go to the show notes because we've got bold questions there to challenge you. We've got bold questions in the show notes to help you establish, are we focused too much on productivity with the risk of having that 61% turnover? And how do we shift that to focusing on connectivity so that our retention goes up and the satisfaction, the joy, and the overwhelming heart value of the work that our team is contributing every single day has an exponential ripple effect that we want in the workplace. Thanks for joining me in the Sandbox today. Make it a great day. God bless.